This story is in the literature anthology book on page 126. And there's actually two stories here. We're going to read both, and in order to get 100 points, you need to read both and follow along with your book. So you can pause the video right now and go get your book. So you'll want to be able to say that you earned the 100 points by following along as best you can with both of these stories and keeping up in the book. The genre is mystery. Compare text. Read how a turtle goes about solving a mystery. The Moonlight Concert Mystery. The last rays of sunlight slipped down through the sea as Toshio the turtle, world-famous detective, sighed with relief. The workday was finally over, and the moonlight concert would soon begin. He'd been looking forward to this night for months, although he wished his friend Jack the jellyfish could have joined him. After the concert, Toshio was off to Florida for a much-needed break. As he was packing up, Angela and Charlie rushed into his office. "Can you believe the moonlight concert was canceled?" Charlie the crab asked in his usual cranky manner. There's a vocabulary word for this week. Now, Angela, the angelfish corrected. "Where are your manners, Charlie? You didn't even say hello." She smiled sweetly as Charlie rolled his eyes. Toshio was used to this behavior from the pair, so he turned to Angela and asked, "What's all this about the concert being canceled?" "Well," Angela began, "Charlie and I were just strolling past the concert stage when we saw Serena putting up a sign, and she almost ran into me with a drum when I asked her why the show was called off," interrupted Charlie. Picking up his cap and notebook, Toshio suggested they head over to the concert stage. At the entrance to the stage, the group ran into Oliver the octopus, whose eyes never left the ocean floor. "I was supposed to perform my solo tonight," he mumbled. "Oh, boo-hoo," mocked Charlie. "You always get a solo." Toshio raised an eyebrow at Charlie's attitude, then turned to Oliver. Attitude is one of our vocabulary words this week. "Why was the concert canceled, Oliver?" he asked. "Because all of our instruments were stolen," Oliver cried. "Please excuse me." He continued on his miserable way toward Mermaid Cave. Toshio took careful notes based on his observations and conversations. Didn't we see somebody carrying a drum? Suddenly, Serena the starfish stomped toward the group. "Did you read the sign? The concert is canceled." Serena's words seemed harsh to Toshio, especially since she was the band leader. "But why?" Angela asked. "I had no choice, Angel Face. The instruments were stolen," Serena explained. "Oliver told me about the incident." "Why was Oliver here before you?" Toshio asked, scribbling in his notebook. "A special guest offered to play during our show, so Oliver had to put off his solo until the next concert. He took it a little hard at first, but later offered to set up the stage." Charlie watched as Toshio jotted down the new information and rubbed his chin. "What's there to think about? Sounds like Oliver had a motive." "A good detective never jumps to conclusion," Toshio replied. Finding no other clues, Toshio led the group toward Mermaid Cave. Serena stumbled over something that Toshio recognized immediately. "Is that a coral drumstick?" The starfish blushed and picked it up. "Oh, so it is. The drummers will be thrilled we found it." Angela smiled uncomfortably as a drumbeat echoed from within the cave. "Did you hear that? Come on." Toshio paused to pick up a crumpled sheet of paper before following the others into the cave. As he pulled back the seaweed curtain, Toshio heard the coral hit the drums in a familiar rhythm. Familiar is one of our vocabulary words this week. Suddenly, the lights came up and everyone shouted, "Surprise, Toshio!" Toshio couldn't help but smile. "My friends, you have outdone yourselves in creating this great mystery. I never guessed that you were planning a going-away party for me. What a delightful surprise." As the music swelled inside Mermaid Cave, Toshio read the crumpled note. "Have everyone gather in Mermaid Cave for tonight's surprise. Don't forget my drumsticks. Jamming Jack Jellyfish." Toshio chuckled to himself and tucked the page into his notebook. He couldn't think of a better way to spend his last night before setting out on his next big adventure. Make connections. In what ways is Toshio a good detective? Essential question. How is Toshio's character similar to other animal characters? Text to self. And now the second story. The genre is narrative nonfiction. Essential question. How are all living things connected? Read about the relationship between buffaloes, humans, and the land. Of course, this is page 130. The Buffalo Are Back by Jean Craighead George. Paintings by Wendell Miner. In a time long ago, an orange buffalo calf was born. He wobbled to his feet and blinked. a lark flew to the top of a 6-foot blade of grass and sang as sweetly as a panpipe. A town of prairie dogs barked. The green gold grasses of the plains rippled like waves. There's one of our vocabulary words, rippled. From horizon to horizon. On that day in the mid-1800s, 75 million buffalo roamed in North America. In little more than 50 years, there would be almost none. What happened? The answer is a story of the American Indians, the buffalo, and the grass. The American Indians. On the day that the calf was born, the air was smoky. The Indians who lived on the plains were setting the grasses ablaze, as they had for thousands of years. The fire was good for the prairie. The calf may have been afraid of the flames, but they kept the trees from taking over the grasslands. The fire's ashes put nutrients into the soil, making the grass healthier for the buffalo that ate it. By taking care of the grass, the Indians took care of the buffalo. In return, the buffalo took care of the Indians, and the plains. Buffalo were the Indians' food and were used